Dungeons & Dragons Online is a free-to-play MMO set in the beautiful universe of DnD. Released in February of 2006, this MMO is almost 2 decades old and jam-packed full of so much low-poly content that it's quite insane how much content this game has. So much content that at one point in the game, I was launched into outer space as part of the DnD space program. So welcome. Today we're going to explore all the wild content that Dungeons & Dragons Online offers on the eve of its 20th birthday. Now, as with any MMO, you've got to make a character, and once again I was blessed with the divine foresight to make the best character to save the realms of D&D Online. I will give this MMO one thing: despite being as old as it is, it's incredibly in-depth with so much variety, complexity, and just ways to play the game. Between all the classes, the races, your freedom to make a character that defines you is almost unlimited. From Drow who look sickly, to Dragonborn who look like a wise-ass Uncle Iroh, all the way to Virgin Elf and his cousin Chad Elf. You had Jim Bro Orcs, and on God, the most horrifying furry I have ever seen in my life. You get given the option between melee, spellcaster, specialist, and iconic, which is exactly what you think they all mean. And after you pick your style, you move on to the second step. Class, and I, choosing melee, had the options of fighter, barbarian, paladin, or monk. The choice was pretty simple. Fighter was locked in. But that's where things got a teensy bit tricky, as I had two options: Fighter and Dragon Lord. And I'm not gonna lie, Dragon Lord is 10 times cooler as a class just from the name alone. But when I clicked on it, I had to pay money. This is one of the minor problems with D&D Online and a lot of older MMOs that have gone free to play. They've added so much content over the years, you kind of have to pay for a lot of it. So you either subscribe or you cough up cash. Which is a fair thing to ask. Like every one of these videos that I do, I am a free-to-play player though, which means regular old-ass fighter for me. Now, this is where the complexity comes into play a bit. You get given predefined pathways, or you can customize your path and build an obscene amount of flexibility. And after picking my path and race, and I went with standard human and tank warrior, I went on to create a man, a myth, a legend. The name? Eben. John Eben. Or I would have called him that, but you know, John's taken, so the John Eben. And that was also taken, which is weird. So I called my guy the John Eben, James Bond's Section 8 cousin. And upon finishing my character, I was greeted with a homeless man on my screen. This was the champion of the realm. Now, as far as tutorial experiences go, the Skyrim introduction is the safest, and that's what happened. I woke up on a beach shipwrecked with a man called Jeet Shimis, a rogue, talking to me. The dialogue and the narrator, which is what you call the DM, was very interesting. Now, Jeet was a shifty rogue, but he wasn't a bad guy, just an opportunist. He was like looting the beach, you just know, doing rogue things. And in this context, he was a tutorial's guiding hand, helping me pick a weapon and learn a bit about where, who, and what is happening. The dialogue was also very non-HR, which was a nice thing. And I'm quoting Jeets, who was sending us to Salamis, a cleric who was a member of his party, with the dialogue: "Salamis is at the grotto, tell her to keep her knickers on." That would get you cancelled. But not in 2006 it wouldn't. The game pretty much pushes you into a dungeon, but in Dungeons & Dragons Online's case, it's how you experience most of the game's world and story. Instant, solo, or group content, both dungeons, instances, and open world explorable locations. They're all instants. And the grotto is your introduction to that, where after a long string of exploration, defeating fish people known as Sahagin, who'll be the main villains for the next portion of the story, we were home free and at the beginning of D&D Online. Now, immediately upon entering the village, I get inundated with a shitload of messages and notifications, and after spending a few moments trying to figure things out, I say screw it and just get on with things. I pick up a load of quests and I proceed to enter a crypt full of wannabe necromancers, a crazy old man's basement which he booby-trapped to high heaven before he disappeared, and I had to wade through it to recover the treasure, and then another basement with a crystal where the Korthos kept spawning, but were glitching out and then respawning and unspawning and then taking forever to spawn. So we solved all 3 of those quests. I then talked to my class trainer, essentially to be met with, "I can't teach you nothing, you're a pathetic weakling, get out of my face," which is fair. The game just started, alright. I came to my final quest, the defense of Korthos, where we had to defeat the resident incel necromancer, Jacoby Drexelhand, and his horde of fish people companioned in the bar. With a name like that, though, I'm not even surprised it turned out how it did. But why did he sell his soul to the fish god? Because he was a weakling. So anyways, I killed wave after wave of fish people before tracking Jacoby down into the basement, and the basement is much deeper than we thought it would be, because there's a secret wall, you open it, you go down, whoop, another fish cabin. But he gets put down, and I saved Korthos village and finished the introduction to the game. I also hit level 2. The leveling system in D&D Online is really interesting, but I'll cover that later in the video. But you know what should be covered right now? You hitting the like and subscribe button. Anyways, This is where I finally got to dive into the Korthos Wilds, an open world location that was once again instanced. In the Korthos Wild, there were objectives: Slayer, Rare Encounters, and Explorer. And this is just a side quest, essentially akin to a Ubisoft or other companies' filler content. You go out in between your questing, you kill mobs, you find rares, you discover locations. And in the Korthos Wild, there were a lot of instances. And I'm going to summarize because there was a lot of instances. So I got stuck in an ancient factory looking for a man important to the plot for far too long because the goddamn valves I meant to turn to open the passageway were actually tiny little valves hidden on the thing itself, and I couldn't find them, so I ran around a bunch, and then eventually, after way too long, I found the valves, turned it, and got to finish through. Then there was a dungeon where the mayor's daughter was being held ransom because for some reason, important people's kids keep getting kidnapped. If you're important in a dangerous world, protect your kids. And then a ruined aqueduct that was full of even more fish people, because fish people. And after all of this and turning in all my quests, I picked up the final quest, the ultimate quest, which was entering a mountain called Misery's Peak. And the name was fitting because it was Peak Misery. And in this ginormous instance, which was packed full of locales, lore, and NPCs, we had a quest to stop the dragon, which was, yes, if I'm reading this correctly, being controlled by a goddamn mind flayer. Because that's a logical tutorial quest, and that's like reaching level 10 in WoW, and you got to free the Lich King from the control of the Burning Legion. Anyways, I'm the main character, so that's what I do. I free the dragon, which smites the mind flayer out of existence, and thus the John, have saved the people of Korthos. I would honestly have talked down on the people for not fighting back and trying harder, but they were dealt the literal terrible hand. Like, I'd give up if I was a regular person too. That's like saying, why didn't the peasants stop Genghis Khan from conquering the world? What were they supposed to do? Now, this is where you leave Korthos and you go to Storm's Reach, and the questing opens up a lot, and there's dozens upon, well, that's a lie. There's thousands of quests once you leave the beginning area. The game world expands massively, just beyond comparison. There is so much to do. But I'm going to talk about the leveling and the process of it now. In D&D Online, leveling has two parts: level and rank. It's essentially a simpler way to let people get more level to the D&D's level cap of 20. In regular D&D, whilst people can only really peak at 20, D&D Online has been slowly increasing levels over the years to give people more and more power and let the game keep progressing. So the level cap is 34, but it's broken down into regular levels, epic levels, and legendary levels. 1 to 20 is regular, 20 to 30 is epic, and then 34 plus is legendary. Now technically the game is meant to go to level 40, but level 35 to 40 has not released yet. That'll come in the coming years. But on top of that, you have ranks. Every 5 ranks you can level up. So to go from level 2 to level 3, you'd have to reach rank 11, which would be level 3. This way, the actual level cap is actually much higher than 34. Each rank gives you an enhancement, except the rank which lets you level up. So from rank 6 to rank 11, you would get 4 enhancements because rank 6 is level 2 and rank 11 is level 3. Overall, it's a rather simple system, and the amount of variety you have in leveling up your character between multi-classing and spreading an enhancement across multiple skill trees gives you an obscene amount of variety and options to play and enjoy the game. Now though, let's talk about the game itself, the instance-based gameplay of D&D Online, and right off the bat, this is an amazing system, but it's also a problematic system. I'm gonna give D&D Online kudos for how well done all the instances are. I didn't get bored playing through the instances once. None of the instances, despite some of them being janky or a little weird or off-putting, it was all fun and amusing. I will say though, one part that was frustrating was that there was no linear questing system. You have to make your own story and adventure. The game does not hold your hand at all. Like at the very beginning, from the Korthos storyline, there's only a certain path you can take, and that's it. But it very quickly stops holding and tells you to go out to the world, find a quest and go ham at it. Very D&D-like. But it did create a kind of janky feeling progression. For example, going from a sewer to defending against a horde of kobolds attacking a keep, to diving into a different sewer filled with the different monsters, to entering a crypt, to fighting off orcish clans, to getting back into a sewer. And also, I just need to mention something, Storm Reach is a terrible place to live. How does this city have so many sewers? It's like an underground empire full of tunnels of bullshittery. There is so many problems in Storm's Reach that, as a regular individual living there, why would you choose to live there? I would not want to be a citizen in the D&D world because holy shit, it's like, oh, I want to go home, but now there's a kobold empire in my house, so I'm now homeless. Nonetheless, if the storyline progression being open and free happened at a later level, I think it would have been much better. For example, say level 10 and onwards. it would have been way less frustrating. But it wasn't like a super big detraction from the experience, but it was a distraction. On top of that, and this is where I said earlier with the instances, it was kind of problematic, is that despite you seeing other people once you reach Storm's Reach, and you only see people in cities typically, it's a rather lonely experience. Now, I assume at the highest levels, in raid and elite difficulties, you're going to contact with other people. But for the entire time that I played, not once did I have a person group up with me, or could I join another person's group. Even applying or leaving my group open for people to join, nobody tried. Yet, regardless, this is a big problem in MMO to have. The game was still fun, but D&D Online does do something well, which is the hireling system, where you can go hire a companion to follow you around the world, and these people are incredibly helpful. Like, you will want a companion. These hirelings are amazing. They literally saved my ass in some of the hard instances, and effectively would have made some of these dungeons uncompletable for my fighter without a lot of planning and thinking. And I'm a fighter. I don't do thinking. Now, let's break down the type of instances. You have dungeons, which are solo instances with varying degrees of difficulty to them. You then have wilderness adventure areas, which are like large areas like the Cerulean Hills and Korthos Wilds, full of dungeons, quests, and locations for you to enjoy and experience. Then there are safe areas like Storm's Reach is the city, which you can see other people in, and then there are raids, which is 12-person content meant for people at higher levels. All in all, the instance nature and quality of the instances is D&D Online's biggest strength and its biggest weakness. Talking about strengths and weaknesses though, combat. Now, pretty much every MMO is rather divisive when it comes to combat. Some people love a specific kind of MMO's combat, some people hate a specific kind of MMO's combat. In D&D Online though, the combat was rather straightforward and fun. As I played a fight equipped with a large shield and adamantine plate, I had a CR of 39, which meant anyone that did physical damage could not hit me. I felt like an unkillable monster, a god amongst men, standing there taking hit after hit after hit with no care in the world, until casters started shooting at me. And when magic gets involved, bullshit. They just avoided my incredibly high CR. It meant that I had to prepare and plan accordingly based on the enemies. If I didn't see any shamans or casters or anything magical, I just AFK auto attacked them like Superman. If there was any casters, I beeline towards them and gave them the Batman treatment. Now, as a fighter, my class was rather straightforward and the combat was enjoyable. I didn't have major complaints aside from not really having many abilities, but I also didn't really have much need for abilities. I know other classes require hitting high levels to start getting online and feeling good, but as most melee classes do, turn brain off and thunk. And talking about getting online and feeling good, let me introduce you to the D&D Online store, where you can quite literally buy anything. Classes, races, mounts, experience potions, class power, gambling materials, resources, cosmetics, as well as a subscription which provides a lot, mind you, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this game is a rather egregious in-game store. But before I lambast D&D Online for its store, I will say you do not have to really purchase anything until much higher in levels, and at that point you may as well subscribe if you're really enjoying the game. Now, I would rather no MMO have a store at all, but in the modern day and age that is simply not realistic and would be unfair considering that even World of Warcraft has a rather robust cash shop. Sure, it's mostly cosmetics, but it is a rather robust cash shop. So I'm gonna give the store a 4 out of 10 as it's one of the more awful ones I've seen in an MMO, but it's definitely not an Eastern MMO store, so it's got that going for it. Talking about cons, there are a few. Right off the bat, paywalled quests. That's right, there are certain quests you cannot do because you have to pay for that quest package. Now they always give out discounts and bundles for $1, get all these quests or this or that, but having paywalled quests just felt icky to me, and I really did not like that. And if you're free to play, there are constant methods and ways trying to force you to spend money. For example, if you die, you get told, spend some money, and here you go, you can revive right here and continue your adventure. Otherwise, you have to do a long run back to the instance from wherever your respawn point was, and mine was at the inn, so I had to run all the way back, get to the location, run back to where I died previously to resume. On top of that, there's a daily gambling system, silver and gold. Silver, you get one free roll and it gives you some rewards, but both the gold and silver tier give you experience, items, consumables, and more. It's a very shady thing to include in an MMO, and as you've seen in my other videos before, any form of gambling or gacha is a straight no from me, and I disrespect it heavily. Overall though, D&D Online is an incredibly fun game. Sure, some things are not that good, but it's full of interesting quests, thought-provoking dialogue and moments, a fun combat system, and all of that is bundled into a game that does an MMO very well, and probably would have been better off as a single-player RPG if I'm being honest. But some of the quests I experienced, like when Fitzroy sends me into a dubious dungeon, and whilst I'm in there I fight kobolds, and then ginormous spiders. And don't get me wrong, low-poly spiders are low-poly spiders, but giant spiders, even when they're low-poly, just make my skin jitter. And the spider design in Lotro was very horrific is a good way to put it. It reminds me of a traumatic childhood memory when my dad put on some random horror movie where these people get stuck on this island with cannibals, and then one of the guys gets kidnapped by giant spiders into the caverns under the island. Why my dad thought a 10-year-old should watch a trauma-inducing man-eating spider movie, I will never know. But anyways, as an experience, I would wholeheartedly recommend everyone try out D&D Online. Keep your expectations tempered, mind you, and just enjoy the narrator and the storylines, the beautiful world and quests, and just vibe. It's an almost 20-year-old MMO, and it holds up incredibly well. Maybe we'll get a new, more modern MMO after Baldur's Gate 3's success, but hey, we at least have D&D Online's amazing stories. That's where I'm gonna leave that. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you hated it, understandable. Dislike and subscribe so you can dislike my next MMO essay as well. Thank you all, Ebonhard out. Peace.